Ladies and gentlemen, if you have ever felt like an idiot, then you're in the right place. In fact, the star of this show calls them IMOs, idiot moments, and she has collected some classics that she shares all across the United States and Canada. She loves the light of her life, Jerry Cline, their dog Lucky Man, her Harley Davidson, good golly Miss Molly, and make these people laugh out loud. She's Southern, she's sassy, she's savvy, and she is the Harley riding humorist. Please help me welcome from Kennesaw, Georgia, speaker, author, and adoptive mother of a crazed Shih Tzu, June Cline.
More. My parents used to be worried about me showing my butt, but I just showed y'all my baby boob. Oh my gosh, where's the wow button when you need it? My grandma would have said, "They Lord in mercy." If I'd known it was going to be this good, I'd have put on my brassiere and put my teeth in. Oh my gosh, look what we created. Can you just give yourselves an applause? So excited, so many of you are here. And I have to tell you, I need to identify you right now. Pre, through, post, menopausal women, give it up. Do you see what I'm saying? All right, well, this is the thing about that. How many of you are like me? You can't remember squat? The only thing you can retain is water, and that's getting iffy. I know my people. I know you lose fluids. And we lose every ding, dang, dong thing else. How many of you you will walk into a room and you have no clue? And so you'll go out and you think, oh, well, if I go back in there. And about the third time, I get ticked off at myself and I decide I am not leaving until I remember why I'm here. And then I forget that. And our phones, oh my God, do you lose your phone every 5 seconds? I totally panicked the other day. I was on the phone with my girlfriend. I said, oh my God, I cannot find my phone. Y'all are nodding your heads because you've done it. She said you're on it. Took a moment. How about the keys? There you go. You're going to lose fluids, aren't you? Some of you already started. I love that. So how about your keys? Can't find our keys. Well, next time, look in the refrigerator. That's where I found mine, right between the Metamucil and the Lactate. So I'm just saying, if you can't find them, I told my girlfriend that the other day. I said, look in the refrigerator. She looked at me like I'd lost my mind, and I said, well, girlfriend, I know where mine are. And how about locking yourself out of your house? Have you done that? And this morning, I feel your pain. How about naked? Have you done that yet? It's a sad but not sordid tale that, well, it's chapter 3 in my book. Is it God or is it gas? Intuition versus indigestion. And if you'll make sure I have your email before you leave tonight, either by PayPal already or just make sure you're on the list, I will send you a free copy of my ebook of Is It God or Is It Gas? And you can read that sad, non-sordid tale about me locking myself out of my house naked. It was not in the wintertime. Thank you for asking. Now, the other thing that I, where are our people that love us? If you care about a pre or post menopausal woman, would you give us some applause? Let's see where you are. Oh, they Lordy mercy! Did you hear how anemic that was? You're on your last nerve with these people, aren't you? Some of you are sleeping with these people. And it's not a good thing. But I feel like I should apologize and also thank you for putting up with us. But also, we suck you in to our craziness. We will have a conversation with you and then suddenly we just stop. And we leave. Because we finally figured out what was in that other room. And then we'll come back 3 hours later, and we expect you to pick right up where we are. I know, it's not fair, but it's the way we are. And sometimes we really get you involved. A couple of weeks ago, I flew in from somewhere, and I had to run by the bank real quick and run out because I was catching a flight the next day. So I go charging into the drive-thru and got there about 2 minutes before that bank was going to close. As I started to drive off, I started to hear my name. Miss Cline, Miss Cline. I thought, yes, Lord. But I was hoping he knew me by my first name, and I heard that third Miss Cline, and I glanced back in the rearview mirror, and they were already taking care of the person behind me. So I figured it was just my own little personal religious experience, and I went driving off. Got home, reached for my purse. There was their little tube. You know that tube? And I thought, they Lord of mercy. So I go into the house, and I've got my purse on my shoulder, and I got this tube behind my back. And Jerry Cline says, darling, how was your trip? And I whip out this tube. He starts laughing so hard. He is sliding down the refrigerator, knocking magnets off everywhere. And he ended up on the floor laughing hysterically. And I just stood there, watched Mr. Electrical Engineer have his little hissy fit. And I said, don't laugh. You get to take it back. We suck you guys into this stuff. It's just terrible. But this is what I have to say about that. You do not know. People who love us, you do not know nor understand until you have awoken from a deep sleep, flung those covers back, stood straight up, and started stripping out of your clothes, only to discover that you are on a plane to Phoenix. You just don't know. Speaking of Phoenix, is it hot enough for you? That is the dumbest question I've ever heard. But in the South, they say it a lot. We say it all the time. Hot enough for you? No, stack about 20 more degrees on that so I can really build up here. But in '03, I ran away from home. I ran away from Kennesaw, Georgia, and I came to Phoenix, Arizona. And I will never forget hearing that announcer. I'd been here about a week. And all of a sudden, I hear this weather guy say, it's only going to be 106 today. I almost whiplashed myself trying to see what weatherman was trying to put lipstick on that pig. Those two words don't go together. Only and 106? They Lord have mercy. In the South, our skin melts off our makeup at 87. At 100 degrees, we are kicking the kids and the dog out of the little wading pool, and we will get in about 2 inches of water and pour a cold beer. Can you tell my people are rural people? Good people, hardworking people. rural people. So by the time it's 106, you will die if you stand in front of the air conditioning and the double wide. You will be injured for sure. But this is what I discovered as the summer went on. The reason they say only is because anything up and around about 109, it will singe your nasal hair. So are you people, the people that are not from here, give me some love, applause, let me see. Yeah, thank you. This is a public service announcement. Should you begin to smell burnt toast and you ain't cooking any, you go jump in that pool, which is really a hot tub until about October. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. So, as far as the show, welcome to Make It a Great Ride. You saw some of the pictures. I just have to know, how many of you thought I might ride in here on my good golly Miss Molly 883 Harley Davidson and just come right up on this stage? See? Yeah. Well, y'all need to increase your medication. Have a girlfriend that said, oh, you can't have a show named Make It a Great Ride and not ride in on your Harley. I said, girlfriend, that's a metaphor. Besides, I've already made a grand entrance on my Harley. And again, a little bit of a sad tale. Y'all, let me just step over here and tell you that I was voted the most likely not to succeed in my Harley riding class. They were pretty sure I was gonna die. I was the oldest female, and I would drop that bike. It would fall over for no ding-dang-dong reason. It didn't matter if it was a parking lot, a stop sign, red light. I was like, y'all, and this is how many of you remember Artie Johnson? Yeah, the little guy that was me. I could do that, just boom, fall over. So it was sad, and plus I think part of that problem was because my mama had forbid me ever to be on a Harley. If I ever catch you on a motorcycle, I will kill you. You can die on those things. So I'm 53 years old, taking lessons for the first time ever, and that was 10 years ago. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I didn't do too good. I was in the back roads down around South Mountain. I was taking the subways, the sub streets there, subdivision, because I didn't want to be out in the traffic. And I remember coming to a T, you have to turn right or turn left. I had chosen left. And as I started to let the clutch out, it just slipped right out of my hand. It's the first time I've ever seen my feet on that side of the handlebars. Well, the thrust forward threw me back, which caused me to roll back on the throttle. And suddenly I am going Mach 4 across that little street, hanging on by one throttle and one left cheek. I took out 3 trash cans, popped a curb, and ended up in the middle of a backyard barbecue, to which I had not been invited. The guys came running over. Are you okay? Any dents? Anything broken? Any dings? Let me see. Let me make sure you're all right. They're talking about good golly Miss Molly. I'm laying over here in the dirt, the women come and help me up, sit me down, give me a bottle of water, and a half a rack of ribs. I was so embarrassed and humiliated. I couldn't wait to get out of there. And once I thought I had my balance and my grounding, I got up to go over to where Miss Molly was, and oh my gosh, I think if I had limped or gimped right on out of there, I could have gone home with a brisket. But there was one man, he's still standing around Miss Molly, and he's looking around on the ground like he's trying to find something. And I said, "Are you looking for something, sir?" And he said, "Yes, you broke the ball off of the end of your clutch." And I was just looking for it. "Oh, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. That was 3 drops ago." I didn't see any sense in getting it fixed until I figured out how to stay on it. And he said, "Lady, have you considered training wheels?" Oh, good Lord. So I know we have some biker people in here. Where are my Steel Horse Sisterhood? Make some noise. Go ahead. Absolutely. Any fender fluff? Ah! There is no bad seat on 2 wheels, 2 or 3 wheels. Yeah. Any other bikers or riders in here? Awesome. Just want to know who you are. That's great. We're gonna find out more about others. So this show is really about IMOs. You heard it in the intro. Idiot moments. Those moments that are just not stellar. Everybody has them. How many of you have ever walked into the wrong restroom? Clap. Yeah, good clap. That's an IMO. And how many of you go in there on purpose? That's a pervert. Or it could be, yes, I just heard that, desperate, or it could be a pre-through post-menopausal woman desperate. So that's what those are about, and I want to know a little bit more about, well, first, I like to always answer a couple of questions that happen all the time. And the first one I ever always receive is it natural? Curly girls, any curly girls, you get that question? Is it natural? But there's a phenomenon that's happening with mine. I don't know about yours, but they want to touch it. I have had numerous occasions people say, "I like your hair." And I say, "Thank you." And then they'll say, "Can I touch it?" Oh, no. But then one day, it just annoyed me that somebody else had asked me again, and I don't know where it came from, but I said $20. It has become a line item. So coming in tonight, there was a nice gentleman, a little odd, but, well, you know, okay. And he says, "I like your hair." And I said, "Thank you." And he said, "Can I touch it?" And I said, $20. Al, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for letting me do that, Peggy. So I really, you know, this is good. This is a line item. The other question I get all the time is, how did I get started? As speakers, don't you get that all the time? Well, for me, I was in student financial aid 100 years ago, 28 years ago. And somebody's laughing over student financial aid. See, it ain't funny. But I figured out the funny in student financial aid, and I volunteered for some reason to give a speech in front of about 300 of my closest peers and friends. And I was terrified all of a sudden. I collected these student bloopers. Because on their application, under sex, how many of you remember sex? Little discussion groups always break out, I don't know. I'm talking about on the application. And on the application, they would put stuff like, Yes, no, sometimes, twice. Once in Madisonville and again in Valdosta. And then the one that touched my soul and got me to start collecting these was the one that said, yes, but I was sorry. I know, felt so sorry for her. And you know what? The thing is, it's so hard to look a student in the eyes when you have this information. So I ended up a file right that day. I wrote idiots on it. And I started to collect them, and I volunteered to give this speech in front of 300 of my peers, standing up there. I'd never done anything like this before. What the heck was I thinking? Knees were knocking, big old wad of cotton in my mouth, and oh my gosh, 300 people, but 599 eyes looking back at me. Flushing out my cerebrals. They're doing math. You're doing math, aren't you, Jared? So 599 eyes looking back at me, and it's my girlfriend. She's on the front row right there, and she's going, "Oh Lord, help her! God help her!" And she can't believe I've volunteered to do this. So at the end, it went great. I got a standing ovation. And she jumped up, came running up to me, and started rocking me back and forth like a dog with a bone. And she says, "Girlfriend, you better quit your day job." I said, "Girlfriend, what do you think I'm trying to do?" I had two bosses in the audience, my regular boss and Big Boss, his boss. Big Boss came running up to me, and I just couldn't wait for the accolades. He kind of came behind me, whispered in this ear, "Girlfriend, better turn off her microphone." So I needed a job after that. However, and this is the turning point, a woman came up and said, "How much would you charge to do this at our association?" And I jokingly said, "Well, how much you got?" She said, "We have a $1,000 honorarium, and of course we would pay your travel." I said, "I am so there for you." I was going to say $50. So that literally is how my career started. And I wasn't going to tell this, but because it's already come up, the other thing I get all the time is that I look like people. Everybody got a doppelganger? Well, I've been told early on in my youth that I sound like Dolly Parton, have the mannerisms of Annie Potts, look like Victoria Principal just around the eyes. Why would you even tell anybody that? But the one that scared me was this woman came up to me after I got a little older, and she said, "You remind me of Ozzy Osbourne." We both started screaming. She was trying to say Sharon, but by then the damage was done. See, this is why, the therapy. This is why I call them mental pauses. How many of you are in the mental pause? Yeah? So you know what you're trying to say, but it just doesn't come out. So let me find out a little bit about you guys. Are there any singles? Raise your hand because you want to be identified. Woo! Look at that. Oh my gosh. Okay, there's going to be an impromptu meetup in the bar right afterward. How many of you are married? Let's see that. Oh my gosh. Okay, to the original. Oh, okay. A few less hands. Some of us have to get a running start at it more than once. I'm on 2.5. Thank you. So, of those that have been married to the originals, how many of you have been married for 71 years? No. There you go. I asked this question to a group of auxiliary volunteers. I was speaking at Greenbrier Hotel, and I was asking how long, and I normally would get the numbers and ages, and so this senior lady sitting in the middle, all of a sudden she raises her hand, she says, 71 years. And I said, you've been married 71 years? Yes. And I said, how on earth have you stayed married for 71 years? And she said, drugs. Can I come up there? I was like, darling, if you've been married 71 years, you can go anywhere you want to go, but bring the drugs with you. So she comes flying up here on the stage, jerks that microphone out of my hand, and she says, I have some friends, there's 2 of us, and we all 3 go to Curves. You know Curves? And she starts to tell this story about this trainer that worked them out particularly hard the week before. And the woman said, her youngest friend, you should not work us out this hard. My kids are in high school. Next friend says, my kids are in college. And our little friend, married 71 years, says, well, you both need to hush. Both of my kids are on Social Security. So, kids, let's see how fertile this group is. Let's go for it. Who has kids? Oh, my God, it is a fertile group. Lord have mercy. You know, it's just not as easy as it looks. You know what I'm saying? So, my darling, Jerry Cline, and I tried to have kids for 9 years. But apparently God wanted us to have money and travel. I mean to tell you, it's just not that easy. I was stuck, poked, prodded, and given hormones that would grow hair on concrete. They could not get hair to grow on Jerry Cline's head, but they could make my chin look like Quasimodo. Quasimodo? I just blew my own joke right there. They could make my own chin look like Chewbacca. Now there's a lesson for you. In my coaching, I will put that in right there. There you go. Chewbacca, yeah, but do you know who Quasimodo is? And Sasquatch, remember Sasquatch? You know who they are? Oh, no, you don't. They are poor, infertile women on male hormones. I don't know how you guys walk around with that stuff. It's crazy. And I tried, and just in case you think God does not have a sense of humor, I was infertile in Utah. Help me. Lord have mercy. Everybody there is pregnant, including the men. And they just pop them out like little Pez dispensers. Every birth is a complete Osmond family. I mean, they come out complete with this full set of teeth, all 32 in the top row, and they know that little dance. I was in a restaurant one day, and I was watching 40 pregnant women were in there. I counted them. And I just kept drinking the water. Drinking the water, buy depends. Drink the water, buy depends. So we could not have kids, so we decided just to have puppies. We had 4 puppies together, and then Jerry had one on his own. Feel the need to explain that one. You need a little bit of a backstory here, so let me explain that. As my grandmother would say, we need to set a spell on this one. So, Jerry and I were married for 22 years. I was married to the light of my life, the flame of my eternal being. And he owed me because I saved that man from nerddom. He could have been a a nerd, a poster child for Nerds International. He came complete with a pocket protector, assorted pens and pencils, and preparation age. The man is always prepared. Well, somewhere in our workaholic, too busy, too little fun, not enough play, and too much stress, we lost our way. Ain't no good guys, there ain't no bad guys, there's only you and me, and we just disagree. And through some family stuff that happened, I ended up finding that last straw. And I thought, I'm out of here. And in '03, that's when I moved to Tempe, Arizona. Now, I will never forget going to tell my mama that I was divorcing Jerry Cline and leaving him. And she said, June, I know you've been unhappy for a while, and I support you in whatever it is you need to do. But you need to know this. You may be divorcing Jerry Cline, but I am not. He is my son. He's been my son for 22 years, and he's my friend. And so if you can handle that, we can handle this. Whew. Yes, ma'am. So, flash forward 5 years when Mama has a mild stroke. And I start trying to get her to come to Phoenix. I ain't coming to Phoenix. It's too hot out there. Your nose will explode. So she chose to stay with Jerry, and I would fly in and out and in and out. And for 9 years, this was the case. How could I have known the last time I saw her? And she had begun to go, it was really bad, and I'll never forget turning back in her room and blowing her a kiss. And on that day, she had the wherewithal to blow one back. Priceless. So how could I have known that a month later she'd be gone? And what are the odds that it would be the one day Jerry Cline was in Phoenix in my house? Little Huss plotted and planned that. And when I see her, I'm going to blow her a kiss. Because it took a year and a half after her death for me to figure out and to finally take the midnight Ford to Georgia, because I finally understood that I'd rather live in his unconditional love world than live without him in mine. I'm telling you, it's a real life story. So imagine I walk into that house that I left 9 years ago, and oh my gosh, it has become a man cave. And Jerry had a dog of his own because he had found this little, I'm just going to say a little Shih Tzu, in the parking lot of McDonald's in 4 inches of snow, got him to come over with a biscuit, and they had been an item for 2 years. So I come walking in that door, and all of a sudden there's this flurry of action all around my feet, and snarling and growling, and oh my gosh. And then that night when I went to go to bed, same thing, running up and down the edge of the bed, snarling and growling and nipping at me, and that was Jerry. The lucky dude, as we call him, he's laying in my spot going, "Who's the bitch, Dad?" So I had to worm my way into this creature's heart, and I did. And I remember, when I had to rearrange some things when I came back, and Lucky's place of where he stays is in Jerry Cline's lap. So Jerry's in the lazy boy, Lucky's in his lap, and they're both staring at me like I'm the TV. Well, that's where it was. But Jerry looks at the lucky man and says, "Lucky, we have gone from a man cave to a man corner." And Jerry is so attached few months later, it was freezing, and it was going to be down to like 4 degrees that night. And Jerry says, "It's a 3-dog night, and I've only got 2 peoples." And that annoyed me. I said, "Jerry, you do understand that this is a dog." "Shh, don't say that out loud. He just thinks he's short." And then there's the time that Jerry is so proud of me, and he's so sad he couldn't be here tonight. He got the big job. You know, that's always the way it's been. From all those 22 years ago, as soon as we plot and plan something, the big job comes out. So he's tied up, and he said one night, "You know, when you make it big time with your one-woman show and all this other good stuff you have going on, I'm just going to lay in the floor, and I'm going to fight over tugs with Lucky." I said, "That's great, but the first time I see you drag your butt across the carpet, you're both outside." And I had to remind him that I've already made it big. I'm already great. I mean, yeah. I'll take that. Because my mama and I we went out to dinner at Whitfield Station in Kennesaw, Georgia, and we were going into the ladies' room, had a lovely meal, and so there's 3 staller. I need to set this up for you a little bit. So there's somebody in the first stall, nobody in the second, nobody in the third. So open the door for Mama, she goes there, I go there, and we're still talking when out of that first stall comes, "Is that June Cline?" "Yes, Lord." And I said, "Yes." And she says, "Oh my gosh, you spoke to our women's conference about 3 weeks ago. We loved you. I will never forget that voice." "Really?" So I said, I went all Seinfeld on her, and I said, "Do you have a square in there? Could you write that down? We got to get endorsements anywhere we can be." So then chimes out of the third stall, my mama says, "Jen, you really have made it big time, darling. Once you're recognized in the toilet, the sky is the limit." Leave it to my mama to tell it like it is. So I did end up on the road. And oh my gosh, at the IMOs, the idiot moments, the crazy things that came about. I know some of my speaker friends in here. Well, let's see, where are my speaker friends? Go ahead and let's clap. That's a whole bunch. That's awesome. And how about the Power Women? Can I see Power Women? We do have some power women, and I'm just going to have to go ahead and acknowledge there's more than one here, but I can't name you all, but there's 2 I'm going to name, and that's Jeannie Robertson. Do y'all know Jeannie Robertson? 600 bazillion hits on Facebook, that's all, you know. And then there's the amazing Mickey Williams. And Jeannie, you know I always look up at you. Look up to you. And Mickey, not so much. You're awesome, but it's just that height thing, you know. So, but thank you, y'all. I'm just honored, all of you. I'm honored every single one of you showed up here. So in my IMOs, my idiot moments, oh my gosh. Oh, early on in the game, I was telling a group of 500 managers. I was doing a thing called Humor in Financial Aid. Hello, first one ever. And humor in the workplace, and so the group I was speaking to, about 500 managers, and I was telling them that if they would take a moment, a lunchtime break, and just get the group together, and for about 30 minutes or so, watch some Karl Marx films. Some of y'all gonna have to Google that, and it ain't pretty. So somebody yelled out, "Did you mean Groucho?" Yeah, I meant out. That was not good. And then there was a time that I was trying to tell a group about how important humor is, especially during repetitive tasks. It makes a difference. People will stick with it longer. And so what came out of my mouth was humor is particularly productive during reproductive tasks. I did not hear what I said, so I said, you know, when you do it over and over. That's the first time I lost an audience member. The man fell right out on the floor, and he's pounding his fist on the floor. He's laughing so hard. And then, like a testament, he says, I've been trying to tell my wife that for years. You cannot make this up. And then a couple of the most embarrassing, well, let me tell you this one first. Are many of you, any of you like me, that you can be asleep on the plane before it takes off? Thank you for your support. I mean, I am gone out kaput. So imagine, the next thing I heard was, in preparation for landing, please put your seat in the upright and locked position. And that's when I woke up. In the armpit of a man I did not know. I remember opening my eyes to the weave of a crisp white shirt. And I was confused. I don't remember starching my sheets. And then I realized that my head is slowly going up and down with the rhythmic breathing of this man's belly. I glance around and I can see in the peripheral vision this man's hand. He's hanging on to the back of my seat, trying not to invade my space. And that's when I jerked my cheek up off his chest so fast, I left a 3-inch skid mark of Fryer Red Lips on Fire lipstick. Right there, in the middle of a great big old drool spot. It was so not pretty. And that's when I became the victim. Oh my gosh, sir! Why didn't you wake me? Well, ma'am, it looked like you could use the rest. I have never been more embarrassed or humiliated. I said, sir, do you want me to call your wife? Do you want me to do the dry cleaning? He says, oh, I think she's going to get a big kick out of this one. I was speechless the rest of the time. I mean, as a speaker, that's hard for us to do. And I waited until there was enough gap between everybody deplaning, and as I got up and leaving my seatmate, I turned to him and I said, sir, it was very nice sleeping with you. Now, that would have been bad enough that day, but no. I get to my speech, and I have been dealing with this meeting planner for 6 months, and we had bonded. You know how we do. They like us. We become friends. We go to their weddings, all that stuff. Well, I ended up coming into this ballroom, and I was running a little late because of the time of the plane, and I came in there, and there she was. I said, Lisa, and she says, June. And I came up to her. I said, oh my gosh, Lisa, you have never mentioned you were pregnant. This is a public service announcement. Never announce to anyone they are pregnant. They may not know. So Lisa says, my child is 2 years old. And I said, how about them Braves? But my thoughts were, let it out. help with the financial aid. The oddest one of the oddest times of embarrassment that I have had was I wanted to take an improv course. And I was driving through my hometown, and there was a church that every time, you'll be all right, it's good, I know. There was a church, and it said improv Wednesday the 19th and 7 to 9 sanctuary. So I would drive it every day going past through there, and I thought, I'm going to sign up. Are you ever fixing to begin, to commence, to start, to do something? Well, finally, the day of, I thought, I'm going to go and just see if I can take this class. So I go in the church, and I was going to go early, and it was straight up 7 o'clock, and I go into the church, and there is about 10 people. There are 10 people sitting in there, and I'm like, okay, so there's this lady, a silver-haired lady on the second seat. And I leaned over to her, and I said, is this improv? She said, yes. So I thought, well, I might as well sit on the front row because I'm going to have to sign up, sign in, do something. Well, right about on cue, this erudite man comes gliding across the room, and he gets right in front of us. I'm sitting on a stool right there in front of the sanctuary, and he said, let us begin in prayer. And I'm thinking, well, how nice. This pastor's going to pray over this improv class. I guess that makes sense, but it's really nice. And it was a nice prayer, and then he looked up and he said, well, let's begin with you, and you tell us how you've come to find our church. Sir, I think I'm lost. Let us pray. And they stood and they prayed and they laid hands on me, and I promise you, I think I levitated. And as God is my witness, the easiest thing to do that night was to join that church. I affectionately call it now the Antioch Church of the Improv. But I was so traumatized by that, I have never taken an improv class. People started then telling me their own goofy IMOs, and I'm going to share a couple. You are losing fluids. Girl, I love you for that. I love you. See, I can make pre, through, postmenopausal women lose fluids. That's what I'm telling you. It ain't no lie. So mental pause. Where was I going? I did the thing, and then I did the thing. Pardon? Thank you so much. Other people that started telling me. I love a smart audience. They started telling me theirs, and I only have a couple that I'm going to tell you tonight. I could tell you a bunch more, but the ones that I love, one of them happened when, y'all remember pantyhose? Yeah, when we used to wear those. Well, I was fixing to go on to about 300 women, and a last-minute little bathroom check, those acrylic nails popped right through that pantyhose and had about a 6-lane run shooting all the way down there. Well, if something's obvious, then you need to address it. So I got up there and said, "Do you see what I just did in the ladies' room?" And they all hooted and hollered. And I said, "But this is the thing we need to remember, ladies, is that pantyhose, the quality of pantyhose is directly proportionate to the cost. So if you get a pair of cheap pantyhose, there is no elasticity." Now, gentlemen, this is an educational moment for you. Just so you know that you need to encourage your women to buy expensive pantyhose when they need them. Because on any given day, there's a reason why we have an attitude. Because our cheap pantyhose, the crotch of them is about our kneecaps. And we are trying to get around as best we can. We have an attitude. So that prompted this lady to come up afterward, and she said, "June, I have a pantyhose story." Well, don't we all? I said, "Do tell it, girl." And she said she was going for a job interview, and she too needed to run in and get a pair of pantyhose, and so she bought the cheap pair. And sure enough, she got in there, and she said just as she started to assume the position when the man told her to sit down, those pantyhose popped, and they rolled down to her thighs. And she is so focused on these pantyhose that she cannot hear this man. She said it was like a Snoopy show. Wah, 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 wah. He could see that she was disengaged from this interview. So he abruptly ended it with, "If we need you, we'll call you." And she said she stood up. Those pantyhose hit the floor, and she waddled out. Into the foyer where other applicants she was going straight on out the door. They got up and went with her. You do the math on that one. Oh my gosh. Then I have to do equal billing for the guys because I did. Are there any engineers in here? We love you. We love you. Anyway, this is just a generalization, you understand, but I did 250 engineers once. Do you want to know how they laugh? Have you seen how an engineer laughs? Did you see it? If they're really funny, it's two in quick succession. So I'm up there dying on this platform, and I'm thinking it's awful, and they form a receiving line to come up afterward and tell me how great I was. And this one gentleman decides to tell me about the time he was doing a presentation in front of about 300 of his electrical engineer friends. This was a little while ago, because now we have the clicker where you can. Is there a cat in here? Is my mic? Oh, when I get under my mic? Okay, I just was. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Yeah, Jeannie, I'm taping it. It's good. Oh my gosh. So in that story, I was saying about, the gentleman comes up and he starts telling me about he's doing. He's doing a presentation to 300 of his electrical engineer buds, and he's using an extendable pointer. And the tip had come off. Do you remember those extendable? The tip had come off. And he had a habit of collapsing it right about his belly button. So, gentlemen, have you ever wondered what that little square hole in the lip of your zipper is? He got his pointer hung in his zipper. Well, now you think about that scenario and him trying to get it loose. He could not get it loose. He had to do the rest of his presentation with his pointer hung in his zipper. He said it changed his life. And y'all, I don't know if humor really does help in all situations. God knows our world is crazy now, isn't it? And can you see how laughter just feels so much better? And it doesn't matter what it is. Oh, there's a time and a place to laugh and to cry. And to the extent that we can lighten up a really bad situation with laughter, then let's choose that. It makes all the difference. It was December 19th, 1991. It was 19 degrees as I was headed to Emory Hospital to finally take care of that. Guys, cover your ears. I'm going to talk about female problems for a moment. Finally take care of this severe case of endometriosis that I'd had my entire life. I was to the point of barely able to function, and it was time to make the decision. And it was going to change and end a dream and things that Jerry and I thought we wanted. So I decided, well, first of all, people always say, well, why didn't you two adopt? Well, it was complicated. We had too many felons in the family. Rural people, good people, hard-working people. And nobody in our family can run for president. You know what? Maybe they could. Had not thought of that. I'm going to go back home and tell my people, you can run. That was spontaneous. Now where am I? So we're having a serious moment here about how it was a big deal for Jerry and I. And one of my financial aid buddies had sent me a card to tell how I wanted to be treated while I was in the hospital. So it had this list of stickers in it. And I thought, I'm going to smuggle this into the hospital, and I'm going to surprise Jerry Cline, lighten up this situation just a bit. So I'll never forget when apparently Nurse Nightingale was off that day, and Nurse Ratchet came in with an attitude and a clipboard, a Ziploc bag, and an attitude. And she said, sign here, put your clothes in here, and put the gown on in there. And she turned around and walked out, and I saluted the back of her head. I had those cards, that card hidden here. So I put on those stickers, and it said, no hypos here, ticklish area, this side up, what you doing looking back here? So I decided, I put those on, and I had that gown, opened that door. It was so heavy, I can still feel how heavy that solid door was. It slammed against the wall, made a heck of a noise, just as I said, ta-da! I think the one most surprised was the pastor of the Antioch Church of the Improv. So he just went out the door, just backing out, and he was crossing himself. He came in Southern Baptist, but he was leaving of another religion. And Jerry Cline laughed so hard again. He was sliding down the bed, hurting himself laughing, and he was down on the couch. And he said, you need to take those off. They're coming for you, so you need to. And I said, I'm not taking these off. He said, you can't take those into surgery. They're not sterile. You'll get in trouble. Mr. Electrical Engineer, can you spell retentive? And then he ended up, well, I just said, I'm taking them, I'm leaving them on. So when I left him, we were doing the pageant wave and laughing because we had a little secret. Well, I wasn't totally under when they wheeled me in to that OR. And in a moment, in an instant, I was scared to death. There were a dozen people in there and milling around, and this room was so cold you could hang meat in there. And just about the time I started to totally panic, Nurse Ratchet started to administer the IV, and she said, well, my goodness, what is this? These are instructions on how I want to be treated during surgery. And she said, well, are there other instructions and can I see them? Well, sure, it's not like you're not going to see everything anyway. So she lifts my gown and says, "Hey, y'all, come look at this." And the entire OR came over to look at me wearing nothing but a smile and some stickers. And suddenly it did not seem like such a dang cute idea. But one of them said, "Hey, look, y'all, she's one of us." This did not give me comfort, but they started to show me their socks. They pulled up their britcher legs, and each one of them had on crazy, crazy socks because that's the only way or individuality they could have there, and they all had playful socks. And as I drifted off to sleep, I knew I would wake up utterly uterless. So this is the thing that I want you to know. 6 weeks later, I went for my first doctor's checkup, and she greeted me with a smile and said, "Well, there's the star of the OR." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Oh, everybody loved you." And after my exam, she said, "I knew you would do well because of your attitude and your sense of humor." She said I was one of the fastest bouncing back girls from a total hysterectomy that she'd ever had. So see, it does make a difference. I have to, before I let you go, I have to tell you the back end of the Harley story as well. Because clearly you saw from the pictures that I did continue to ride even though I kept dropping the bike. But there was one Sunday afternoon that Jerry and I, we weren't talking unless it had to do with Mama. And so I got a call on a Sunday afternoon, and I had decided, I dropped the bike 6 times, dang near killed myself the last one, and I thought, you need to let this go. So that afternoon, Jerry called, and he said, "We got some Mama business," and he said, "How's the bike coming?" And I said, "I'm going to get rid of it." And he said, "June, you have wanted a Harley your entire life. Why don't you give it 3 more months?" Well, I knew he just wanted the insurance money. But my instructor from 3 months earlier called within an hour. And he said, "I just want to check on you and see how you're doing on your bike." And I know he thought I was dead. And I said, "I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to put it on eBay. It's just not working out." He said, "Be geared up and ready tomorrow at 5:15. I'm escorting you to a ride your own bike class, and you are going to learn to ride your bike." Longest 8 miles of my life. But this was the 3rd instructor, and I was driving. We were doing stop and goes, those really fast where you come around and you go about 20 miles an hour, and you have to stop before you kill the instructor. So on the 3rd pass around, I stopped and I fell over. And he came running up, "Are you okay? Any dings, any dents? Are you?" He's talking about the bike. And then he says to me, after he finally helps me back up, "I can see what you're doing, and it's twofold. Now, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say." He said, "You have no crotch air." Why is it when we hear something that we can't really believe we just heard, we say, "Excuse me?" You have no crotch air. There is no distance between you and your bike. And you have a nasty little habit of tilting your head when you stop. Your body is shifting the weight and you are pulling yourself over. If you can keep your head on straight, you might have a great ride. Really? Have not dropped my bike since for that reason. Now, that next week, I was going to be speaking in Fresno to a group of people and a group of women, 1,500 in the keynote and then breakout, and it was standing room only. There were 400 people in there, and I felt I could be a little bit more intimate with this group and tell them about my major discovery, about how this whole bike thing was a problem, but now I had it. And I said, this bike, he gave me the spiel. This bike is an aerodynamically balanced machine. It wants to stay upright and erect. And that's when a woman in the middle of about 400 women stood up and yelled out, "My husband wants the same thing." And I said, it's a metaphor. So there is the metaphor. I'm going to leave you with one last story, but before I do, I have to tell you, oh my God, what an amazing audience you are. I will love you forever because you showed up, you came, you supported a dream that I didn't know if it was going to happen or not. I just put it out there. And this is the thing about my last story. It's my favorite, and it gives me hope. And y'all, our world needs us. We need hope, if ever we've needed hope. So for me, laughter equals hope. I was asked to speak in Atlanta to the largest single senior citizens group. I walked in to the rec room. You know how they have those mega churches and they've got all that room, and walked in there, and there was about 300 people. It looked like a group of Shar-Pei people. I have never seen so much skin foliage in my life. And y'all, it was like 5,000 to 1. There were like 5 men alive. Guys, you get the pick of the litter if you can just live long enough. So there are all these people, and there's a guy sitting about where you are, Jeannie, and he's sitting there, and he's got the walker in front of him, and we're this far from the stage, and he all of a sudden, I thought, he's gone. This guy's dead. And I was fixing to call for help because he looked dead. And about the time I was really checking him out, his eyes flung open, and he looked up, and he saw me, and he jumped up, and he moved that walker aside. Perception is everything. And he jumped up, kind of, and he started beelining it the 2 inches that it was between me and the stage. And he comes looking up at me, and he takes my hands, and he says, "Well, hello." And I said, "Well, hello, sir. How are you?" And he said, "Are you married?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he threw down those hands, turned around, and starts going back to his 2 inches to the seat. And I said, sir, wait a minute." Without missing a beat, he throws up both hands, and he says, "Hun, a minute may be all I got left." Whatever you've got left, make it a great ride, people.